Genesis chapter 25. If you remember chapter 24, Abram was 100. Oh, chapter 22, 21. Abram was 100 and his wife was 90, and when they had their first child. So in chapter 25, and Sarah died. Abram's wife died. Then again, Abram took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare him. Now hold it. Abram is still producing children. The guy's got to be 137 years old. Okay? So whatever God fixed when he was 100, he fixed it. Like, fixed it. Okay. Okay. She bare him Zimram and Jokshan and Medan and Midian. Oh, now there's an interesting fellow. As you read all these names, it's interesting to see what happened to them. The people, the descendants of Midian, would be the Midianites. And they're passed by Midianite merchantmen, and they lifted up Joseph out of the pit. Remember when they sold him to be a slave? Guess who hauled him down there? The Midianite cousins. Yeah. They sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought him to Egypt. Now, the Midianites settled over here on this side of the Red Sea. If you know your geography, there the Red Sea comes up and it splits, got the two fingers. In between, they call this the Sinai Peninsula, but that is not where Mount Sinai is. That is a complete goof. Some Phoenician princess was riding her chariot down here, and she saw this mountain, and she said, "Oh, that looks like Mount Sinai." "Oh, yes, Your Highness, yes, ma'am." And they wrote it down, and they've called it ever since. It's not Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is over here in Arabia where the Midianites were. I'll show you. So when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. Remember, Moses killed the guy, beating up on the Jews, and so Moses had to flee for his life. Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. So Moses ran all the way from Egypt all the way around over here and came to the land of Midian to hide from Pharaoh. Figured I'll put the Red Sea between us, and that ought to do it. Now, later, Moses led the people of Israel across this, what's called the Sinai Peninsula, and they crossed the Red Sea right here back to the land of Midian, because that's where Mount Sinai is. There's a dry riverbed that runs through that desert out there and comes out right there on a beach. This dry riverbed, except when it rains, I guess, if you're in that thing, you're trapped. You can't go up the mountains on either side. So the children of Israel, like 2 million of them, are being chased out of Egypt. And they go follow this riverbed down, and they're stopped right here at this white dot, which is actually a huge beach. So they're stopped right there. It's about 8.5 or 9 miles across the Red Sea. Well, that's a long swim. And here's that beach. It's huge. There are warehouses and factories on it now, okay? Well, down at the south end of this beach, back years and years ago, Ron Wyatt discovered a pillar, a rock stone pillar. They dragged it out, couldn't read anything on it hardly, but they found one just like it across the Red Sea, and that one was in good shape. And both pillars apparently said, this is where Moses crossed the Red Sea. So, my friend of mine, Vince Gilbert, you can call him, here's his phone number. Vince Gilbert's a good friend of mine in Texas. I talked to him yesterday. He went down there, and there's some heavy equipment working there, so he helped the guys drag the pillar out, stand it up, and poured a concrete base around it, and it's standing there right now today. Now, Ron went over on the Saudi side and located that pillar, and the Saudis, being, not very in favor of Scripture being true, took it and put it in a warehouse someplace. So it's gone. So that one's not up on the Saudi side, but there was a pillar over there too. Call them and ask them, what happened to it? Why don't you put it up? Because they know the Bible says that their land all goes to Israel one day, and they don't like that idea. Anyway, so across this, right here where that beach was, all the way across is about 8 or 9 miles. And it's real deep on both sides of this, like 5,000 feet deep, the Red Sea is. Except for right there. There's a natural underwater land bridge that's only 900 feet deep. Still pretty deep. But 900 feet spread out over 8 or 9 miles is a nice gentle slope down and back up. No problem for walking or hauling your chariot or, wagons or whatever they did. So they went across the Red Sea on the Gulf of Aqaba, clear across, and ended up in the land of Midian. So that's where they would have gone across in that natural underwater land bridge. Now, Gilbert has been over there many times with scuba gear. He wants to find Pharaoh's chariot. They found a bunch of chariots under there, chariot wheels, chariot cabs, horse bones, horse hooves. The whole army drowned there. So that's all legit. Anyway, back to the story. Midian, Moses kept the flock of his Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. He went over there to hide from Pharaoh, married one of this guy's daughters, the priest of Midian. Now, the Midianites were not, the same religion, I guess, as their cousins, the Jews. The old elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand, and they came to Balaam. You know the story of Balaam where his jackass talked to him, amazing story. They were the enemy. They became the enemies of Israel as they're trying to get into the promised land. 400 years after 400 years of slavery. Moses spake to the people, arm yourselves, some of you, and go to war against the Midianites and avenge the Lord of Midian. And they warred against the Midianites, and they slew the kings of Midian. Numbers chapter 31, there's a whole chapter about that. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian. So these guys were perpetual enemies of the Jews. These are Abraham's children by his third wife. And the Lord said to Gideon, by the 300 that left, I will save you and deliver the Midianites into your hand. Judges chapter 7. And Jokshan begat Sheban, so he's going back to Genesis 25, more of Abraham's kids. Begat Sheba, Dedan, and all these other guys, the sons of Midian, and it names all them. All these were the children of Keturah. That's Abram's third wife. So these people all settled in all this part of what is today called the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. And they're all intermingled and intermarried now, but the Midianites, most maps will have Midia up here spelled differently with a Y, but the Midianites and all these electric lights and everything else, they all settled down in this area. So we got Abram with his wife Keturah, who had all these children, and they had a whole bunch of grandkids. Then we got Abram with his wife Sarah, and she had Isaac, only one child, and he had all the Jews today. And then we got Abram with his wife Hagar, his servant girl, who had all the other kids over here. So really, they're all related, and they fight all the time. Abram gave all that he had unto Isaac, but unto the sons of the concubines which Abram had, Abram gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac, his son, while he yet lived. This is a smart way to do your will. Go ahead and divide it up while you're alive to make sure it happens the way you want. There's one old man, this guy said, hey, I understand you got a hearing aid. He said, yep, got a hearing aid. It's great, I can hear now. They said, well, have you told your kids and grandkids? Nope, haven't told them a thing, but I've changed my will 4 times. These are the days of the years of Abraham, which he lived 163 years. He lived to be an old man, 175. But, unless you chart it out like we've done here, you won't catch something very interesting. You can get these, how much are these? 6 of them for $30? Yeah, laminated for placemats. You will notice something interesting. I did this years and years ago as a new Christian. I thought, whoa, the dates are all given right in the Bible, and I like mathematics, so I said, make a chart, graph it out to scale. It says Abram was an old man and full of years. Well, even though Abraham died at 175, Shem, Selah, and Eber were still alive. Shem was nearly 600, still alive, outlived his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. Pretty cool. You won't see that unless you chart it out like, wow. We've got a bunch of interesting points to ponder if you want to get one of these. And you can spend some time studying all the points to ponder down here. It's really, really cool to think about that. Who cares? Okay. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. Remember, that's the one he bought to bury his wife in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre, the field which Abram purchased of the sons of Heth. There was Abram buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahairoi. And we talked about that one. The well of the one who sees and lives and sees. Well, there it is today. Here is the well. Lahairoi is way down here. This is Beersheba, which is in the desert. This part is really in the desert. Now, if you look at a satellite view, just get on your phone and get a satellite view of Israel. You can see it right here. Here is Bir Lehorai, however you pronounce it, the well. You can see it's green. Right here is the Israeli border with Egypt. On this side, there's stuff growing. Other side, wasted real estate. And so, rather than do what Israel did to get their stuff to grow, They want to steal their land from them. How about plant your own fields, fellas? You know, you drill a well, but this well is still down there. You can see it here in the middle of this desert. I mean, really bad desert area. There's patches of green. They're growing stuff down there. Okay, these are the generations of Ishmael. This phrase appears 10 times in the book of Genesis. These are the generations of. First one is Genesis 2:4. Then there's another one in Genesis 5:1 and Genesis 6:9, and they're all scattered, 10 of them. That's a new author taking over. There are 10 different authors for the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 1 mentions the word God 31 times. You go to chapter 2 and it starts calling him Lord God. Well, yeah, that's a different person writing. Adam actually wrote chapter 2, 3, and 4. Noah wrote part of Genesis. Noah's sons wrote part of Genesis. Now, Ishmael wrote part of Genesis. And he gets his genealogy in there. Moses simply collected all this together. We cover all that on video number 7 of my series, the question and answer. Okay, so Abram's son, whom Hagar, the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare to Abram. Now these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to the generations, the firstborn of Ishmael, and it gives all their names, like Kedar. Well, Kedar is right here. The children of Ishmael all settled and moved down and took over basically the whole Saudi Arabian peninsula. Probably the Saudis, or Kuwaitis, or all those people down in that region, Yemen, they would probably trace their genealogy back to Ishmael, Abram's technically illegitimate son. And Mishman, Duman, mentions all these guys. You can read them for yourself. These are the sons of Ishmael, their names, their towns, and their castles. 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the ghost and died and was gathered to his people. So, and they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur. Well, Havilah is, the whole land of Havilah is here, and Shur is over here, up near the Mediterranean Sea. They dwelt from Havilah unto Shur. Here's the wilderness of Shur, right up in here, from Egypt, right here. Okay, and he died in the presence of his brethren. These are the generations of Isaac. So the section that Ishmael actually wrote was pretty short, a couple of verses, but he's one of the authors of Genesis. Abram's son, Abram begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old, and he took Rebekah to wife. We read that story yesterday where the servant went to get Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, of Padanaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled within her. She's going to have twins. You got a twin brother, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, my twin brother is 6 months younger than me. You believe that, Anna? You don't believe that? Okay. You were telling me about triplets where one of them was how much younger? 3 months?
Yeah, two twins, same name as me and my brother. They had a triplet sister who, once they were born, the doctor said to just keep her in there.
So you know these people?
I went to school with them.
You went to school with them. So their twins are the same age, same names as you and your brother.
Yep.
But after the twins were born, the sister who was in there with them,
yeah,
the doctor said this one's not ready yet.
And I think he kept in there for 2 months.
2 months more until the third one's born.
So.
Triplets with one of them 2 months younger than the rest. That is pretty cool.
And the same name, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
That is really cool. And you went to school with them. Okay.
1 in a million.
Oh, yeah, well, less than that. And she went to inquire of the Lord. Hey, what's going on, Lord? Why is this fighting going on in my stomach? And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. They're not even born yet. There's already a personality conflict going on. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau, which means red. The kids, you ever seen a hairy baby? After that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Now keep in mind, Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. Isaac is now 60 when he finally has kids. So Grandpa Abraham's 160. Finally gets this. Remember, God promised him children like the stars and the sand. Sometimes you got to wait a long time for God's promises. He's not in any hurry. He's not the least bit nervous. Just be patient. Wilbur's coming. We're gonna. I'm sorry. Okay. So here's he's 60 years old, and he finally has twins, Jacob and Esau. And it says, the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Completely different personality. Are you and your brother, you're identical twins, all right?
Straight opposite personalities. Yeah.
Opposite personalities.
Yep.
Okay. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. That's sad when parents love their children because of what they can get from them. Isn't that sad? Couples do that sometimes. Husbands or wives, they love them because of what they can get from them. That's not a good reason. He loved him because he could go hunting and kill deer for him. By the way, on the four-wheeler chase, did you see the deer? Yeah. A doe and two babies, two fawns, nearly ran into him today. Yeah. The one fawn got separated from the other. He's all startled. What do I do, Mom? Of course, they can't yell at each other, so I guess, I don't know. Come home, Bambi. Anyway, there's deer all over this property. And Jacob sod pottage. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. He'd been out hunting, and he was hungry. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage. Give me a bowl of your porridge, okay? For I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. So Esau, later you see it all over the Bible, the Edomites became enemies of Israel. The Edomites started with Esau. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. Now the birthright, if you don't know, in Jewish culture, the oldest child got a double portion. So if there are 7 kids, you divide the money up into 8 piles, and the oldest kid gets 2 of them. If there's only 2 kids, you're going to divide the money into 3 piles, and the oldest kid gets 2 of them, gets a double portion, the birthright. He said, you sell me that birthright. Esau said, behold, I'm at the point to die. Now, you know, after hunting out one day in the woods, I can understand being real hungry, but I don't know if I buy this dying part. But apparently he was so concerned about his flesh. What does my body need? I need money. I need food. I need whatever. And many people, they live their whole life trying to satisfy the desires of the flesh. Now, you got to eat, and you got to breathe, and you got to drink water. I understand those things, but don't let your body be the master of your soul. That's why we do the rubber band shooting thing here. Teach that simple lesson. Let your spirit lead your flesh, not the other way around. You guys haven't seen the airplane yet, have you? Tomorrow, remind me. We'll go out there. Okay. Blow your mind. Okay. He said, I'm going to die. What good is this birthright? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Gave up his inheritance. So the birthright. A birthright is a particular right of possession or privilege that one has just because of their birth, from birth. Traditionally, the eldest son would receive the birthright and assume the responsibilities as head of the household after his father died. He would also inherit the greater portion of his father's wealth and property. The birthright would also include the role of priest in the family. Until later, 400 years later, with Moses, they divided up, said the tribe of Levites are all going to be the priests. But up until then, the oldest child was the priest. It's your job to get the spiritual stuff in line for the family. Then, after he got the treaty, then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. He forsook the birthright. How many people forsake what God has given them? He put it right in front of them, and they turn and walk away from it. How many kids have had opportunity to do something great, and they just blew it, walked away? No, I don't want it. How many couples break up over dumb stuff? They just walk away. Don't do that. He forsook the birthright for some food, for a bowl of soup. We sell ourselves way too cheap. What has God given you? What has God called you to do? And are you doing it? Or are you selling out too cheap? What would it take to get you to quit? What would it take? This guy one time went to this woman. He said, hey, give you $20, go to bed with me. She said, or first he said, I'll give you $3,000. She said, okay. He said, how about $20? She said, what do you think I am? He said, we've already determined that, lady. We're just trying to get the price settled now. We've already determined what you are. Okay. What would you sell out for? What's your price? Well, he sold out for a bowl of soup. Not too bright.